Everybody, I wonder if we're actually on anywhere. Yeah, that's one thing I always do at the beginning is I check to see if we're.
I mean, it says live in the top left.
Yeah, it says live, but can anyone actually hear us? Yep, it looks like there we are. No, I just want to take a second. Like, yeah, there we are. We're on the. It says live. But can anyone
so I feel like we should get Hank Williams Jr. to do our opening sequence. Like, are you ready for a podcast? It's a Monday night party.
No, I'm committed to you and I doing this on Monday nights, and for it to be like our own thing and not the Dugout or whatever. I'm just trying to come up with a different, name or theory.
We can call it the Dugout. I don't care. Just
the Dugout's a great name. This happens to be my name too, but it is a great name.
Yeah.
I have a quick icebreaker story.
Go.
We're going to talk about some of these players that got traded early on, but Enrique Hernandez got signed by the Boston Red Sox. And my old partner and my friends that I used to always tell stories about like hanging out at a bar talking about sports. We don't hang out at a bar anymore, but we set up a little group chat like by text. So my old partner Bill, the professor, big Red Sox fan. Also, I played fantasy baseball with him. He always has Enrique Hernandez, right? So I text him that hey, his team got it. So I wrote, "Hey Bill, your Boston Red Sox just signed your favorite player, Kiki." But because when you type, you don't put all the little things on it. It reads, "Hey Bill, Red Sox just." So I called him a bad name for a Jew, and they've been having fun with that for about a day. And that's something you should watch out for if you're going to type Kiki Hernandez's first name. It looks like you're, ruining your political chances for the future because of your anti-Semitism. But hey, that's just me. Andrea's in the chat room. She said she can hear you. I know Kevin said he was going to show up. He's probably on the Facebook side. I'm supposed to be able to see that here. Not there.
I got to tell you, I saw there's a video. You're coming through kind of choppy. I don't know if that was you or
Hello?
Me, but you had a robot voice the whole time you were talking. Did you hear anything I was saying?
I said, no, only a little bit. There we go. Anyway,
yeah, you sounded pretty. You sounded pretty crusty when you were coming through on my end.
Oh, sorry about that. Well, anyway,
it's okay. But I was going to tell you, there's an Enrique Hernandez video. I posted it a little while ago on my Twitter. I will have to go retweet it after this episode. But it's on his personal account of him doing like this crazy dance. It's funny as crap, man. And I made a tweet that was essentially like, off this alone, he should get a contract. Then he got signed like 2 days later.
He's a good follower. He's a good follow on Twitter, and if you're playing DFS, if you ever faces not Madison Martin, he owns Clayton Kershaw. That's who he owns. He's one of those guys.
No,
it's either Kershaw or Bumgarner. One of those two. He's like 700 lifetime against.
I'm pretty sure it's Bumgarner because he's played for the Dodgers for a couple of years now.
Oh, that's right. They're on the same team, so it's Bumgarner. Anyway, we were going to talk quickly. Tonight we're going to cover, if we do it right, first base and third base. We're probably going to do third base first, even though it's numerically later, just because of the logistics of how we are. As you can tell by watching the thing, Dan is in his car driving home. So he's the point man on first base. I'm the point on third, so we'll start with that. But what do you think of the moves this week? Brad Hand to the Nationals, Ottavino to the Red Sox, Tyon to the Yankees.
I'm going to tell you, I love what Mike Rizzo and the Nationals have done this offseason. They've made so many small – I won't even call them – they haven't made any major splashes.
Well, Josh Bell was pretty decent size.
It's a decent-sized splash, you know what I mean? But this Hand move just – it shores up that bullpen. I mean, they've had Hudson and Doolittle in there that have kind of been, iffy the last few years. So Hand's been pretty consistent, the last 7 years or so. I love this move, and I think that National League East is going to be freaking fire from top to bottom. I mean, every team in that division's got they're bringing a team to the table. No one's just rebuilding at this point if you think about it.
Well, I still think the Marlins are not a very good team. They
made the playoffs last year.
It was a fluky thing in a weird situation in half a season.
I'm just saying, but that's momentum. That they bring that momentum. They got some players there.
I'm still discounting them completely. But the Nationals are just 2 years removed from a World Series, and it seems like they want to do it again. I think all these moves this week are pretty minor. The one that got everybody a little bit up in the arms is the Pirates moves, giving tie into the Yankees, because a lot of people are not happy with the team selling off all their players.
Man,
You know,
they're on their way to like a $14 million payroll for the whole team. It's disgusting. I hate it, to be honest with you, man. I have a real issue with it, but I guess, 2020 affected some teams more than others, I guess you could say. I mean, we've seen this across the board in Major League Baseball this year with teams. Some teams are in and some teams are not in. And someone made a point on Twitter that I agree with, I thought was great, was
I mean,
if you're a fan of like 7 teams, baseball's good. And if you're a fan of the other, 23 teams, you don't like life too much.
I think it's been a problem longer than the COVID epidemic, where there was teams that were in and teams that were out. But last year, I thought that the shortened season and the weirdness would make more teams opt to get in because, anybody can roll a dice in a weird season with 60 games and win the thing. But it didn't, and this is actually this year because their intention is to play an entire season. More teams are opting out quicker, and it's going to be that sort of thing. I mean, it's been probably 5 years, not counting last year where they expanded the playoffs, but it's been like 5 years where there was any team in the American League with a winning record that didn't make the playoffs. It's like there was the haves and have-nots. The National League hasn't been much better. They would have 1 or 2 teams that, like, a roughly 500 Arizona Diamondbacks wouldn't make the playoffs. But yeah, the game is have and have-nots more and more. I think the return for Taillon, who's I don't think that great of a pitcher, he's a solid pitcher, was pretty decent.
Hey, think about this: had Taillon not had a second Tommy John surgery, you could probably get a lot more for him. He's a first-round pedigree. He's the thing that's held his whole entire career up is literally the Tommy John surgeries. So, and the cancer. But he's had flashes of brilliance, and he's got a solid body to work with. He might be one of those pitchers that leaves Pittsburgh, i.e. Garrett Cole or Tyler Glasnow, and goes absolutely nuts. So we're gonna see, man. I'm not selling out. Taillon's what I usually don't buy pitchers that go to New York, but if I can get a good deal on him, I'm not sure of his current ADP. I would take him, to be honest with you.
I mean, the one thing I don't like about it is there's a lot of extremely talented pitchers. I'm not a big New York fan. I rarely ever hype New York guys, but I kind of liked some pitchers that were deep in their rotation possibilities, and I don't like the idea of somebody coming up and being in between them, because I think that we've seen really good pitching out of Luis Severino, and we've seen really good pitching out of Domingo Germán.
Yes.
And I think like if I'm drafting and you can get those guys, I know we're going to talk about pitching later on, but
sure.
If I'm picking Domingo Germán with the 230th pick in the draft, which is very, very doable, I'm thinking that's an awesome pick. I don't want people in between. And they have TV Perez, and I guess they don't have Paxton anymore because his contract's up. But
that Yankees team's going to be really good this year, man. People need to watch out for them.
Yeah, I with the signing of LeMahieu, I think they made their mark that they're going to be a team that contends. They always try to contend. I don't think it'll be a slam dunk like they think. The Rays are always good. I think the Red Sox are underappreciated. The Blue Jays are on the come. And that'll also be a good division. The East will be where the good baseball will be played this year.
Yeah, I just don't understand the Ottavino move today. I really don't. I mean, the Red Sox made a smart move by getting him, but I don't get it, to be honest with you. For cash considerations, essentially, is what I heard they gave him up for.
Yeah, that was the kind of trade you do for basically a scrubby pitcher.
Or a player to be named later or some BS like that. That's what it was, right?
In the 18 innings that Ottavino pitched this year, he had a 5.89 ERA. And the strikeouts are still there.
I scratch especially pitchers. I'll scratch them all. I look at the body of work of the last 3 years. What's his ERA over the last 3 years? I don't think it's been above 3, not one time.
Well, I think the real thing is you got to look at how many games did he pitch where he let up no runs, and that's most of it. He has a 5.89 ERA on August 20th. He let up 3 runs, which is a bad thing. Against Toronto on the 7th, he let up 6 runs. So of the grand total of 16 runs he let up more than half in 2 games.
My issue with last year is spring training is for pitchers. Okay, it's to ramp up their workload. It is, guys go in and get their bats and whatever, but it's mainly there for pitchers. That's why pitchers show up earlier. Pitchers and catchers show up earlier than position players. They need that time to ramp up that arm to get the innings under them. And man, so many pitchers came out flat last year. We saw it across the board. And you saw a couple guys dominate inside their division, i.e. Shane Bieber, etc. Guys like that, Trevor Bauer, the two guys that won the Cy Young. But other than that, man, you saw a lot of top pitchers have off years last year.
Well, I mean, you saw a lot of batters have off years too, and I think there was more batters that were off than pitchers that were off. And there was a lot of off fielding last year, which is another weird thing. It's like there was something about spring training that those guys sort of need. And that actually is one of the stories that I heard that I didn't really put on the list was that Maricopa County, because of the COVID outbreaks, is asking for a delay to start of spring training in Arizona. And so right now, everything we hear is that they're going to play a full season, but spring training might be shortened, and we have to take that into account. And that's one of the reasons why, as hard as it is to figure out what last year really means for players, the way players are going to react is going to be still messed up versus regular baseball. There's still going to be nobody in the stands. There's still going to be, a shortened spring training, less preparation. And so I think last year is going to count more than we really want it to, because people are going to go into the season with the same problems. The one thing we'll have this year is that at the 75th game of the season, they'll be able to, hopefully right their course. There would be the chance to come back from a bad start, which there wasn't last year. And I just lost Dan, which is okay. We're not completely alone.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah. I was going to bring my mask
Yeah, I just turned
here.
my camera off because my internet's not super great going through this patch of town, and it was getting real choppy on your end when you were talking. So
maybe that's it.
I turned my camera off until I get home, which is probably about another 10 minutes.
So I'll never be alone. But anyway, we're going to do third base and first base. We're going to start with third base with me, and we're going to start this off as a regular thing with what you've seen before, people putting out lists. But I'm not a big fan of lists. It's more of a conceptual thing. And so I'm going to throw out the guys I think are the top 20 third basemen with
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. With a couple other things on the other end, and Dan's going to tell me where he thinks I'm right and where he thinks I'm wrong. Hopefully an emphasis on the wrong, because it's in this year. I think we need a lot of discussion. We got to have that sort of thing that the old sales pitches were, where like, here's the advantages of this, here's the couple disadvantages, and you make your decision. Because that's how you help people get into the right products. So anyway, you ready to start?
Let's go.
Let's go. Well, people tend to talk about tiers like groups. I'm not going to go into the great detail on that, so I'm going to read off the four guys I think that are in the upper echelon at third base. And the one guy is clearly number one, and then the other guys are sort of like... So it goes... I got Jose Ramirez number one. And then I got... The next three are very, very close with Nolan Arenado, Anthony Rendon, and DJ LeMahieu. That's like Ramirez is one plus, specifically because out of all the third basemen that you could draft this year, he's the only one that has any real chance of stealing you 20 bases, and all the other numbers are okay. I'm a little worried because of the loss of Lindor and the loss of Santana means they turn their lineup less, but if he hits 30 home runs and steals 20 bases, he's gonna be harder. There might have been a time if Lindor and Santana were still on that team, I might have actually pushed and said this guy deserves top 4, top 5 consideration overall. But with this, he's being drafted around the 14th pick, and in that 13, 14, 16 range is perfectly fine with me. Had a little trouble with Nolan Arenado versus Anthony Rendon. I like Rendon a lot because he's just a good hitter, but I think Arenado, the quality of work is there. And then LeMahieu is somebody we talked about in the past. A guy who can hit 330, and if he can get anywhere close to his 2019 numbers on home runs, the guy has a chance to be like the number 2 third baseman, the number 2 second baseman, and the number 2 first baseman. So that's the first four. Not a lot to say there. Got any notes? I'll take that as a no. Or that your mute is on. Anyway, we'll continue on. The next group gets a little more interesting, and there's This is also 4 people. And these are the guys that I consider the B plus players, and I rank them like this: number 5.